The Temple Mount is in our hands. We are in Jerusalem and we are here to stay.
The building of the third temple in Jerusalem very soon.
For centuries, this moment was unthinkable. But in June 2025, under the Golden Dome, Benjamin Netanyahu stepped into a place almost no leader dares to go, and what he saw may change the countdown to the end forever. The walk beneath Al-Aqsa. Truly I tell you, this generation will not pass away until all these things have happened. Those words from Matthew 24 carry a weight that hangs heavy over Jerusalem. And now, something has shifted. In the quiet heat of June 2025, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu descended into a place almost no modern leader dares to tread: the tunnels beneath the Al-Aqsa Mosque. There was no media swarm, no flashing lights, only a small escort, archaeologists, engineers, and select rabbis. This was not a ceremonial tour. It was a silent inspection, deep under the most contested piece of ground in human history. The air was thick, not just with the dust of centuries, but with prophecy. For decades, the Temple Mount has been the flashpoint of nations. Above ground, the gold dome of the rock gleams. Below, stone passages wind through darkness, chambers sealed for over 2,000 years. Netanyahu walked those ancient paths, speaking in hushed tones to men whose entire lives had been spent studying biblical architecture and sacred law. Eyewitnesses say he paused at a section of rough-hewn wall where fresh markings from engineers lined the stone. Some believe this marks the beginning of a project long promised and long feared, the preparation of a place for the third temple.
All of showbread is ready. The menorah is ready. All of the golden pieces are ready.
Official statements claim the status quo on the Temple Mount remains unchanged.
Very soon we will all see the building of the third temple in Jerusalem.
But in a city where every stone tells a story, the absence of an announcement may be the loudest signal of all. And what Netanyahu saw down there, the object, the platform, the whispered confirmation, may prove that prophecy is moving from scroll to stone faster than anyone realizes.
The Hidden Summit. Days before Netanyahu's descent beneath Al-Aqsa, Jerusalem hosted a meeting almost no one knew about. Not in the Knesset, not in a visible government office. Instead, it took place in a sealed chamber near the Davidson Center, just south of the Temple Mount, a location known for its proximity to the Western Wall tunnels. Inside were some of Israel's most influential religious and political minds, members of the chief rabbinate, senior officials from the Temple Institute, select IDF advisors, and a few international observers from the US and Europe. Among them sat archaeologists whose work had shaped the city's modern understanding of its biblical past. On the table was a subject so sensitive that even the attendees spoke in code: the authentication of a subterranean platform beneath the dome of the rock. Ancient texts describe it as the Aven Hashitia, the foundation stone from which the world was created and where Solomon built the first temple. Modern scanning technology now suggests this is more than legend. Some in the room argued that touching the site would ignite regional firestorms. Others insisted that prophecy leaves no room for hesitation. One insider claims Netanyahu's instructions were clear: "We will not build over, but beneath. The mosque remains, the prophecy advances." Officially, no such meeting took place. Unofficially, the city's spiritual and political heartbeat quickened that day. Plans were whispered, measurements reviewed, and timetables drawn, all hidden from the cameras above. But this summit was not an isolated event. What came next would pull the conversation from closed rooms into the shadowed stone corridors of the mount itself, where ancient prophecy meets political reality. And there, something remarkable awaited. Beneath the dome. The descent began at a discreet entrance, guarded not by soldiers but by civil engineers in reflective vests. Netanyahu's group stepped into the cool air of a passageway carved centuries ago. Light spilled from mounted lamps, revealing walls of worn limestone, their surfaces etched with history. Guides pointed out structural reinforcements, steel and concrete embedded in the ancient stone. This was not routine maintenance. These supports had been placed with precision, as if preparing for something heavy, monumental, and permanent. At one turn, the group paused before a chamber sealed by a thick metal gate. Engineers spoke in technical terms, but the archaeologists' faces told the real story. This was no ordinary room. Behind it, they claimed, was the platform aligned exactly with Ezekiel's temple measurements, the dimensions matching biblical prophecy to the cubit. Netanyahu listened quietly, occasionally glancing at the rabbis beside him. One nodded solemnly, his hand resting on a worn Torah scroll. No words were needed. The moment spoke for itself. Modern scans, the kind used in advanced geological mapping, had already confirmed cavities beyond the gate. Whether they held sacred artifacts or simply empty stone was not revealed, but the presence of armed security at each corner suggested the possibility was far from dismissed. No one above ground knew this was happening, and yet just meters away, worshippers prayed, unaware that history's next chapter might be unfolding beneath their feet. If this chamber is what some believe it is, then every prophecy about the last days just took a step closer to fulfillment. But the discovery was only half the story. The other half was how the world would react once the whispers escaped. Whispers in the nations. Within days of Netanyahu's underground walk, the first hints of activity reached foreign ears. In diplomatic halls from Washington to Riyadh, quiet reports spoke of Israel evaluating the structural stability of the Temple Mount. Officially, it was maintenance. Unofficially, speculation erupted. The United Nations convened an emergency session after a leaked memo suggested religiously sensitive excavation was underway in Jerusalem. The Vatican issued a carefully worded statement urging respect for shared sacred heritage. And in Tehran, leaders accused Israel of plotting the desecration of Islamic holy space. But in a surprising twist, moderate scholars from Saudi Arabia and Jordan broke ranks with the hardline voices. Their joint statement was cautious but groundbreaking. If this temple is not built upon the mosque but alongside or beneath it, perhaps it can fulfill prophecy without violating sanctity. In prophecy circles, the reaction was electric. For centuries, theologians have debated whether the Third Temple could be built without war. Now, for the first time in living memory, an opening, however slim, seemed to exist. Still, the threat of backlash remained high. One false step, one stone moved in the wrong direction, and the fragile balance could shatter overnight. Above the surface, tension simmered. Below, engineers continued their work, and Netanyahu, silent since the visit, left observers guessing. Was he waiting for the right political moment, or was something already underway that no one dared to announce? The answer lay not in speeches, but in the artifacts slowly moving through Jerusalem's hidden gates. The sacred vessels move. For decades, the Temple Institute in Jerusalem has prepared every item needed for the temple service: the golden menorah, the table of showbread, the altar of incense, priestly garments, all crafted according to exact biblical specifications. They were not museum pieces. They were functional, ready for use.
Now, sources claim some of these vessels have been quietly relocated. Witnesses described covered carts escorted through the Western Wall tunnels at odd hours, disappearing into sealed entryways. One engineer, speaking anonymously, described the site as like moving pieces onto a chessboard before anyone knows the game has begun. The vessel's destination? Possibly the subterranean chambers Netanyahu visited. Officials refused to confirm, citing security concerns, but their silence has only fueled the speculation. The movement aligns with prophetic patterns. Before the Second Temple was rededicated, vessels were restored to their rightful place. Before Solomon's Temple was completed, the furnishings were prepared in advance. Every step below Jerusalem now seems to echo that ancient rhythm. And if the vessels are in place, what comes next is inevitable: the space itself. But the space may already be taking shape, hidden from sight, but not from prophecy.
Building beneath. Contrary to the popular image of cranes and scaffolding, the early stages of this construction are invisible from the streets. Engineers reinforce ancient support columns, clear debris from sealed chambers, and install new ventilation, all deep beneath the Temple Mount. Netanyahu's words at the summit, "We are not building over, we are building beneath," now seem less symbolic and more literal. By working underground, the project avoids triggering immediate confrontation over the mosque above. This method has precedent. In Herod's day, vast subterranean structures supported the temple complex. Today, the same approach could allow the re-establishment of sacred spaces without altering the skyline, at least at first. Leaked structural blueprints hint at a rectangular hall aligning perfectly with Ezekiel's prophecy. Reinforcements are being made to hold significant weight, possibly an altar or ark housing. But underground secrecy cannot last forever. At some point, what is hidden must emerge into the light. The question is, will that moment come with celebration or with chaos? For some, that answer depends on whether the most sacred object in Israel's history has already been found. The Ark question. Ron Wyatt's decades-old claims about the Ark of the Covenant being hidden beneath the Temple Mount were dismissed by many scholars. But new scans of sealed chambers show a configuration eerily similar to his descriptions. Anonymous insiders connected to the Temple Institute say one chamber in particular matches the Ark's biblical dimensions. Whether the Ark itself rests there remains unverified. No official inspection has been announced. If the Ark has been found, it would instantly unite and divide the world. For Jews, it would signal divine favor and the readiness of the temple service. For Christians, it could mark the fulfillment of prophecies pointing toward the return of Christ and the rise of the Antichrist. For Muslims, it would raise profound theological questions about Jerusalem's role in the last days. Netanyahu's silence on the matter is telling. In politics, silence often speaks louder than denial. If the Ark exists and is in safe hands, it would explain the sudden acceleration of underground preparations. The temple without the Ark is a building. With the Ark, it becomes prophecy embodied. But prophecy embodied also means prophecy fulfilled, and that comes with warnings. Prophetic countdown. Daniel 9:27 speaks of a covenant confirmed for 1/7, with sacrifice and offering ending midway. 2 Thessalonians 2:4 describes a figure who will exalt himself in God's temple. These verses have long fueled the belief that the third temple must exist before the final sequence of end-time events. For those who watch the signs, Netanyahu's walk, the summit, the vessel movement, and the underground reinforcement are not isolated incidents. They are markers, mileposts on the prophetic timeline. The urgency grows with each passing day. If sacrifices resume, it will be the clearest signal yet that Daniel's clock has started ticking. Yet not all prophecy watchers see this as a cause for celebration. The same verses that speak of restoration also warn of deception, conflict, and tribulation. Jerusalem stands at a crossroads, and the choice, whether made by politicians, prophets, or providence, will shape not just Israel's future, but the world's. And that crossroads is narrowing. Rising tensions. Outside the underground chambers, tensions simmer. Gaza remains under siege, with humanitarian crises drawing international condemnation. In August 2025, far-right minister Itamar Ben-Gvir's controversial prayer on the Temple Mount reignited outrage across the Islamic world. Netanyahu's office insists the Temple Mount status quo is unchanged, yet actions beneath the surface tell another story, one the public is not invited to see. Every movement of stone and vessel risks becoming the spark that ignites a larger fire. Israel's allies grow uneasy, its enemies grow louder, and its neighbors watch with both suspicion and curiosity. In prophecy, Jerusalem is the immovable stone that burdens every nation. In politics, it is the powder keg that no one can safely move. And somewhere in the tension between those two truths, the next move is being prepared. The threshold. If the reports are true, we stand on the threshold of the most significant religious event since the Second Temple fell in 70 A.D. Beneath the Al-Aqsa Mosque, stones are being touched that have not felt human hands in centuries. Plans are unfolding that align with both ancient scripture and modern ambition. Above ground, the city moves as it always has. Prayers at the wall, calls to prayer from the minarets, tourists snapping photos. Below, the sound is different. The scrape of stone, the hum of equipment, the measured steps of men who know the weight of what they are doing. One day soon, the hidden will become visible. The question is whether the world will see a house of peace or the spark of the final conflict. Netanyahu walked beneath Al-Aqsa in silence. The world, for now, is silent with him. But prophecy has never needed permission to speak, and when it does, the clock will already be ticking.